Hello, everyone. My name is Erica Griffin, Public and Community Engagement Manager here at the Chicago History Museum, coming to you virtually. I would like to thank you all so much for joining in on an absolutely beautiful July 4th holiday. For those of you that are joining in for virtual engagement at the Chicago History Museum for the first time, I would like to say welcome to you all. And for those of you that have joined us before and are versed in the programs that we share, bringing Chicago history directly into your homes before, I would like to say welcome back. However you are joining, we are grateful for your participation today. Before we dive into our program, I have a few bits of news and some Zoom how-to tips, and I will start with those, although by this point I assume we are all Zoom experts, so this will be a speedy overview to maximize your viewing today. So if you have any questions or comments for our guests today, for myself, or about the museum, we ask that you use the Q&A feature, which is down at the bottom of your screen. I will do my best to get to all of the questions that are listed there. Also, if you have any issues with sound or with viewing the program today, I've placed the number to the History Museum's Visitor Services Department in the chat. And if you've just joined in, I will drop that in again in case you missed it. Our outstanding Visitor Services staff are standing by at the ready to field your questions. All right, everyone. We want to thank you again for joining us today, for taking the time out of what I am sure is an outstanding slate of July 4th programming set for you this afternoon to engage with us, to think about the civic aspect of this day, and to engage in some family-friendly fun. Our program today, Activating Freedom with Liberty and Justice for All, will hit all of those marks. Our schedule today is a grouping of scholars, writers, journalists, and activists that do the work in the present to activate and make more real and more tangible those foundational promises of our country. So we will listen in to individuals sharing the ways that they today, through their work, activate and make more available life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it is a wonderful grouping of Chicagoans, wonderful organizations, and we hope that you will take the time after you've heard from them to support them, to learn more about the work that they do, and take some time out to think about how you yourself could make more active those words, freedoms and liberty and pursuits of happiness as an individual. Then at 11 o'clock, we hope that you'll join us right back here in our virtual space for a Chicago hot dog history and trivia contest. And yes, there are prizes. We'll be joined by Paul Durica from Pocket Guide to Hell and Louisa Chu from the Chicago Tribune. She is an outstanding food critic and also has a great podcast called Chewing that she co-hosts with Monica Ang of WBEC. Then rounding out our day, we will have Art to Light Up the Sky. It's a really fun, family engaged, family forward fireworks craft activity led by teaching artist Kimberly Wen. Also throughout our program, we will have musical performances by the Chi Arts Alumni Jazz Band. We are so excited to partner with them, and the sounds that they have created for this program are sure to set all of our minds thinking on ways to activate freedom and liberty in our city and beyond. Also, if you are anywhere near the Chicago History Museum today, we encourage you to stop by once the museum opens at 12 p.m. We have free, complimentary, family Freedom in Focus family book boxes. Say that 5 times fast. For those families or individuals that have young ones in their lives, there are books that speak to that moment in time, the foundation of this country, those promises that were made. And then also in that box are readings and books and coloring books as well that speak to the ways that people, individuals, and movements have worked to activate those same core tenets over time. We have an amazing day lined up for you all. We are excited again that you are engaging with us. And with that, I'm going to ask our wonderful engagement coordinator to go ahead, pull up the screen for our very first portion of the day. This is a performance by the Chi Arts Jazz Band alumni of the Star Spangled Banner, featuring Anthony Bruno, the jazz coordinator at Chi Arts. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. What a beautiful rendition, so very soulful and contemplative. That was the Shy Arts Alumni Jazz Band featuring Anthony Bruno on saxophone, Jaden Berkman on guitar, and Kurt Shelby on bass. Next up, I would like to introduce to you Nancy Villafranca, VP of Education and Engagement here at the History Museum, to provide some words of welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Nancy Villafranca Guzman, and I am the Vice President for Education and Engagement at the Chicago History Museum. Today, on July 4th, 2021, a day of celebration of independence, freedom, and equality, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to our virtual event, Activating Freedom with Liberty and Justice for All. On this symbolic date, we have the opportunity to reflect on the promise of this freedom, equality, and citizenship in our country, especially after more than a year of hardship, struggle, and resilience due to the global pandemic and the nationwide moment of deep reflection around the lingering impact of systemic and racial inequality. A commemoration like today allows us to celebrate the resilience, ingenuity, and strength of all those who've come before us, and those of us continuing to frame the work of justice and liberty for all so we can deliver on the promise. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversations about our future and how we all can continue this unfinished work. We hope that the connected stories we share today help us celebrate the people in our city, and that we all may reflect deeper on how history has impacted us today and inspires us to build a more just future. Enjoy, and happy 4th of July.
What is freedom? As a journalist, I have reported on issues of race and poverty for decades. I was privileged to serve as editor and publisher of the Chicago Reporter. Today, I write a column about race and racial justice for the Chicago Sun-Times. As someone who works with words, I find the word freedom quaint. It's an overused word that has lost most of its meaning. I grew up on the South Side of Chicago, a segregated Chicago then and now. I was taught about freedom at my mother's kitchen table. My mother explained to me that I was not free. I was a push baby. As a child, I got my political and civil rights education as my mother took me to rallies and marches at Operation Push, now Rainbow Push. Freedom is something that we demanded and marched for in the 1960s, and in the 70s, and in the 80s, and in the 90s, and today. For me, freedom is about measuring progress on our march towards racial equity. about measuring access and opportunity for people of color. Yes, we have made progress. There are more and more people of color rising to the top in government, corporate, philanthropy, civic worlds more than ever. America has elected a Black president whose political career was born and bred in Chicago. We now have a vice president who is a Black woman and of Indian descent. In Illinois, our political leadership is so diverse, especially among African Americans and Latinos and women. Many are serving in top positions in state and local government. Illinois Comptroller, Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor, Chicago Mayor, Cook County Board President, Chicago City Clerk, and on and on. Chicago has a majority-minority city council, and that's all worth celebrating. But structural racism remains. Recently, we have had many conversations about achieving racial equity and justice. Those conversations come 244 years after the Declaration of Independence was ratified, when America was declared free. That declaration was not written nor intended for women and people of color. Look at our history. To this day, Chicago remains deeply segregated, racially, ethnically, and economically. Chicago's overall population is evenly divided, about a third white, a third Black, a third Latinx, but we generally live in separate neighborhoods. We don't live together, we don't always work together, we don't thrive together. We are imprisoned by our divisions. Divisions and inequities in housing, employment, economic development, public safety, and healthcare. We know all of this so vividly in this era of COVID-19 and racial unrest. Racial and economic segregation is deepening. Chicago's Black population dropped by more than 100,000 over the last decade and is still shrinking. Black and Latino communities are becoming ever more isolated. For me, freedom is about achieving racial equity. In this moment of national racial reckoning, many declarations are being made. In the wake of the police murder of George Floyd, it seems that every organization and institution in America is posting racial equity pledges on their websites. Those declarations are important, but just like the Declaration of Independence, they remain unfulfilled. We have been reluctant to acknowledge our racial history, a history that shows that we are not free. We must be honest and open about that. We must acknowledge that people of color are not free to achieve their highest goals and aspirations. Structural racism is the reason why. When we acknowledge that and when we take on the tough, long-term work for change, freedom will come.
Thank you, Laura Washington, for amazing words, speaking to the importance of honesty and openness when it comes to history so that we may better understand where we are right now as a country, where we've come from, and speculate ways that freedom and equality can be achieved for all. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Laura Washington, a columnist from the Chicago Sun-Times and also an ABC7 political analyst. Up next, I would like to introduce Shobna Verna, the Executive Director of the South Asian American Policy and Research Institute, as she shares with us the way that SAPRI, as it is known, does that work to educate and amplify and work toward freedoms and equalities for her demographic group.
Unfortunately, we do not have a great history when it comes to equal voting rights, starting with extending the right to vote to only white land-owning men, then not granting women the right to vote until 1920, and not until the Civil Rights Movement that many Black Americans were able to exercise their right to vote. Many of these expansions were not looked favorably at the time, but in hindsight, they were necessary and the right thing to do. That's what we believe in as the South Asian American Policy and Research Institute, and continue to lead our South Asian voter engagement and voting rights efforts, acknowledging the cultural and linguistic barriers, immigration history, and general distrust of the government that have caused a large population to hesitate from engaging in the electoral process. Unfortunately,
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Yujin Park. I research issues of race and inequality in education, and I'm currently a postdoctoral research associate at the Institute for Research on Race and Public Policy at UIC. Reflecting on Independence Day is complicated for me because I know that Thomas Jefferson would not have acknowledged me as an Asian American woman as having the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. However, thanks to the vision and struggles of Black communities, my family and I were able to come and build our lives in the United States despite Jefferson. So I want to take this moment as a chance to share how Asian Americans in Chicago are working to contribute to that vision and struggle for collective liberation and equity for those who were not promised liberty and equality at this country's founding. For instance, Asian Americans recently organized to get the TEACH Act passed in Illinois, which, if signed into law, will make Illinois the first state to mandate Asian American history curriculum in public schools. Youth organizers at the HANA Center, a community-based organization that works to build power for immigrant communities, told me that by getting involved in the TEACH campaign, youth experienced firsthand their right to demand education that centers their needs. Asian American youth are also an active part of the Cops Out CPS campaign to remove school resource officers from Chicago public schools and to funnel that money into services for youth. Right now, I'm volunteering as a research mentor at the HANA Center for a group of young Asian American and Latina women who have designed their own research study with the hopes of advocating for more relevant and empowering sex education for girls of color. So as you can see, Asian American youth are working both with each other and their allies to fight for the education they deserve and for a future in which all youth in Chicago feel safe and valued. While I've tried to do my small part in these efforts, as a researcher, I think a unique contribution I can make is to document this local history in the making, which I'm sure is something that the museum appreciates as well. I hope that my work means that we in the present and those who come after us can understand that Asian Americans in Chicago and across the nation play an active and vital role in demanding that this country fulfill its promises to all its people. And I'm grateful to the Chicago History Museum for giving me this chance to document that truth through this avenue as well. Thank you, and I hope you all have a restful 4th of July weekend.
Thank you, Eugene Park, for such amazing remarks, talking to the importance of education and voter access to affect change. Again, I'm hearing over and over again, many of our contributors are speaking to the need to understand history, understand where we've come from, understand the full measures of the impact of those histories against different people, and then make ways for that education, that knowledge to be leveraged against all. And then with that, voting access leveraged far and wide so that everyone may share their thoughts, their feelings, and make change happen for themselves. Next up, we have the Executive Director of the Gage Part Latinx Council, Antonio Santos. Antonio, please take it away.
The United States is built on a promise of liberty and equality for all. Unfortunately, that promise has never existed for most. We are a country that has been plagued by institutional racism that was built into the framework of the United States. And so for me, the work I do every day in my community to create spaces, to create opportunities, and to create tables for queer Latinx folks like myself is a way of ensuring liberty and equality for all. Until the folks who have been marginalized and left out of rooms where decisions are being made have equal access and opportunity to those spaces to make decisions for our own communities, the idea of liberty and equality will not exist. This is something that has happened over the last several hundred years, and so undoing these systems will not happen overnight. But we know that once we address and identify that these issues exist, we can begin working to undo the years of injustice that we have been made victims to. This means reclaiming our narratives, our power, our voices, and demanding and building seats when ones are not given to us.
Hi, my name is Lisa Doi, and I'm the president of the Japanese American Citizens League Chicago. On the wall of the stockade at the Tule Lake Segregation Center, one of the sites used by the U.S. government to confine Japanese Americans during World War II, an unknown author wrote, "Show me the way to go home." This inscription, cribbed from a popular song lyric, troubles the possibility of home. Perhaps the author felt torn between two identities, Japanese and American. Perhaps the author questioned their ability to make home in a country that incarcerated them. Home, like liberty and equality, is an ideal. For the writer on the wall, home, like liberty and equality, probably felt very far away from their jail cell. And this person's confinement, along with the confinement of 120,000 other Japanese Americans, is not the only time in U.S. history when liberty and equality have felt far away. Right now, there are debates in this country about how we teach history, especially to young people. We can get into it on the historical facts or the pedagogical practices, but I wonder how we, as a nation, heal, how we repair and redress harm. Figuring this out is what gives me hope. It's what I think will make our country a more perfect union. So how am I carrying forward the promises of liberty and equality? I am growing my own practice of repair and accountability. I am engaging in community conversations across generations where we can come together to heal intergenerationally. And finally, I am taking cross-community action towards a world that is liberated, a world that is equal. This is what I'm thinking about this 4th of July.
Such wonderful remarks from all of our contributors today. And I hope that you all are having some of those same takeaways that I have. A need for acknowledgement of our past, the truths of it, a need to educate everyone so that we are all aware and understand the positions that we are in and how history has impacted us all in different ways. Advocacy for making ways to make all of us able to access better those foundational tenets so that we may all coexist under equality with liberty and justice for all. And coupled with all of this, the very real need to heal. History is hard. It is often difficult, but we know that history can't always be viewed in the past, and that it is with us always. And let us all, as we go forth on this 4th of July, think amongst ourselves, talk with your friends and family. How can you also be an advocate for equality, for freedom? What can we all do as citizens to heal and make access to these same key tenets? That's what I am thinking about on this 4th of July. And I know some of you out there are doing the very same thing. So I'm going to go back to our schedule for just a moment. And those of you that have the time that are not yet firing up your grills, we hope that you will join us again at 11 a.m. for our hot dog history and trivia contest. I'm just dropping the link to that program down into the chat. That begins at 11 a.m. Doors open at 10:57. And we hope that we see you all there. Gather your family, your friends around, someone that knows a bit about Chicago hot dog history. Join us, engage. And if we don't see you at that program, if you're unable to make it for the rest of our day, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Please visit the website, www.chicagohistory.org, for more information on upcoming programs and events and initiatives. Also, some fun and exciting news to share with you all. In-person engagement will resume on July 24th through the History Museum with our city tour program. You all may have seen during the trailer some of the upcoming events that we have on the list. And please, again, visit that website for more. Until we see you again, and I know that we will, stay safe and be well. We will have the Shy Arts Alumni Jazz Band play us out with an original composition by Anthony Bruno, who's the jazz coordinator there at Shy Arts, a piece he calls Hope for Freedom. And I hope that stays on all of our minds as we continue on today and every day. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully, we'll see you at 11.
Thank you.
Thank you.